What is welcome to a Week 17 edition of CoachTy's Corner. Have a good show lined up for you today. It's a playoff edition show. My guest today includes the defending two-time Super Bowl champion of Madden Brotherhood League, Candyman 2010. We'll discuss tactics, Madden, and we'll even go ahead and break down the playoffs. And we'll be all done. I'm going to start off the show with a real quick award segment. This isn't what it is. This is just my takes and opinions on what I've seen. You may agree, you may not agree. We'll have Candy on after that. We'll get this party started. We're going to start off here with Coach Ty Corner's Awards of the Year. Most improved team in the league, Cleveland Browns. Darkness basically had a losing record all of NBL Year 1. I believe may have even had a losing record in Season 1. Has rebounded nicely on the back of Trent Richardson. 11-4 at a tough conference that features Pittsburgh and Baltimore. 11-4 is definitely nothing to sneeze at in that conference, in that division. And I believe that Cleveland is worthy of the most improved player and team of the year. Coach of the year, Fighting Phils. 15-1, New England Patriots, enough said. GM of the year, a lot of good candidates here, including myself, but I'm leaning towards GM Kofi Smacker. Reason being, Kofi inherited the St. Louis Rams in Season 1. They had nobody in that team but Steven Jackson, Chris Long, James Laurinaitis, and Steven Jackson. We laughed in his face when he wanted to make trades with us because his team was garbage. And lo and behold, this guy may have the best team on paper now in the league. So GM of the year will go to the Kofi Smacker. Offensive Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, Becky Daniels, the halfback from the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans did not have a good year. 4-12. That was not Frankie Daniels' fault. I believe he was pretty much New Orleans' offense and had a whale of a season. He's not heard of, but I played him and I've seen his stats, and he's well deserving. Defensive Rookie of the Year. How can you not be a force on defense with a name like Furious Foster? The All-Pro safety, All-Pro rookie safety, was amongst the league leaders in interceptions and picks. He's since fallen off the pace. At the same time, definitely worthy of Defensive Rookie of the Year honors. Defensive Player of the Year honors, safety Michael Huff. 81 tackles, 6 or 7 picks, and a couple of fumbles. No, I'm not giving it to Sean Smith with 11 picks. No, I'm not giving it to Oxmoor Burner with 13. No offense to those players, but with the onset of ball hawk and how easy it is to jump up and get picks, I'm thinking that Michael Huff's year was just a little bit more impactful to me. And Offensive Player of the Year will be a co-MVP. Vincent Jackson, 91 receptions, 2,000 yards. Anybody that's played Spud knows basically he runs full house. He's going to try to run Lamar Miller, and when he needs to make a pass, it's going to Vincent Jackson. A, B, and maybe C, Dallas Clark. Spud's had an awesome record and a good year. Vincent Jackson's a big reason why. Co-MVP'd with Adrian Peterson. This was close. Definitely thought Reggie Bush might take it, but AP and the Arizona Cardinals have won 10 in a row. Only running back in the league with 2,000 yards. Got to give it up. Would have liked to spend more time on the awards with my breakdowns and explanations, but at this time we're going to move on to our guests. NBL Nation, at this time we have with us winner of the last 2 consecutive Super Bowls in NBL Season League 1. You guys know him as Candyman 2010. He is the coach of the Chicago Bears. First seed bye in the playoffs this year. Candyman 2010, welcome to the show today. How are you today, sir?
Doing fine, Todd. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Not as much as I do. I've definitely been looking to track you down for a while, and I know it's tough because we're doing the shows on Saturdays. That's everybody's kind of prime time to do the family and girlfriend things. So I know it's hard to get people on a Saturday, so thanks for joining us.
Well, no problem, man. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on finally, and looking forward to talking to you guys.
Great. Okay, well, some people know and some people don't know. Candy's been in NBL since NBL's existence early last year. Now, I mentioned that Candy has won the last 2 Super Bowls back-to-back in League One, but for those who don't know, Candyman, I believe, was the first-place team when NBA first started in season 1 and well on his way to the playoffs and possibly the Super Bowl. Due to some things behind the scenes that we're not going to get into, Candy left the NBL. Candy then came back to the NBL, and the rest is history, 2 Super Bowls later. I bring that up because my first question to the Candy Man is, what prompted you to return back to NBL, and what was it about NBL that you felt, you know what, I want to come back and be a part of this?
Well, first of all, I guess, I was part of Madden Men to begin with, and I really enjoyed that league for most of it, and I really like Mike, I really like Jay, and Mike, and Jay decided to leave NBA or Madden Men for various reasons and for good reasons, and decided to embark on a new journey to make their own league, in a league that I think for the majority fits everyone's style, and it just presented itself a good opportunity for guys who really enjoy the game to play, and to also have to voice their opinions, and not have one dictator, have a dictatorship on, well, this is how we're going to do things. And there would be like 1 or 2 voices, it seemed, in Madden Men. And, with the Gridiron Gamers League that Mike kind of made up, he got a lot of good people's opinions together, and, what do you all want to do? And it worked out real nicely, and I really liked the league. And the first season it was kind of dead, and it about fell by the wayside, but Mike kind of rejuvenated and kind of got it going good. And then, there was a couple issues, and those issues were quickly resolved, and I decided to come back. I asked if I could come back in the season 2, because I really enjoyed, the camaraderie with everyone and that kind of thing. And it's just fun, we all enjoy Madden, and it's fun to compete, and there was a good solid group of guys at that point, and we thought that I saw the potential there, and I wanted to be a part of it, and that's really, I guess, my main reasons for coming back, and I'm glad that Mike had me back, and I've had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed talking to you guys and learning from you guys, and it's good stuff. So I guess that's the whole reason why I decided to come back, because another is that it's hard to find 32 guys who get together, play, get their games together and play. And I thought that the Gridiron Gamers League, or the NBL, I just knew after season 2 that we were on to something, and I knew that season 1 of this year of NBL, with the 2013 Madden, I knew that it was going to be even better, and with a couple additions with Gates and Spud and a couple other guys, it's getting better and better. And I just made a comment today saying, we're getting closer to having a group of 32 guys that, are consistent and are easy to schedule games, and you know what you're going to get. There is still drama, and I don't think you're ever going to get rid of the drama.
Exactly.
It's part of human nature, and that's part of being competitive. There's not any sport or game, that where there's no drama, because there's always a competitive nature with any type of competition. But all in all, I think we're getting closer, and I like being a part of it. And, I'm excited for later on down the road. I'm excited for this 3rd season coming up. And, I think a lot more teams are getting better. There's a lot more competition. I think it's, at first when the game came out, it was, A lot of people are just getting familiar with it. I seem to get a better hold on it seemed like at first. And then as Season 2's come on, I can see a lot of guys that are really caught on or doing some different things, and the competition level is really, really high, and it's making it fun. So, you know,
definitely agree with that. Definitely. So, what everybody's been waiting for is to get inside the Madden mind of the Candyman 2010. So, I guess my first question to you would be, how long have you been playing Madden?
Well, actually, I've only really played Madden a lot in the past. Probably, I really started playing more Madden than ever starting the Madden 2012. Whenever I got involved with Madden Men. And I've never been a part of a league before. And I was always a big college fan. I am still a huge college fan. I mean, college football is my favorite sport, but I got into playing the NCAA titles, and they were good for a while. And then starting from last year and into this year, they're horrible. I can't even play them. And I really like Madden, and it's a more consistent game, and it's a lot less flawed compared to the NCAA titles. So for about 2 years, I really got into it. Since we had this league, I got even more into it, wanted to learn more, and I just enjoy the competitive nature of the game. So it's about 2 years to answer.
Fair enough. Biggest thing on Madden 2013 that you like about the game, and worst thing about the game that you can't stand about 2013?
Well, that's a good question. At first, my initial impression of the game was, the tackling was really weird. The physics, the new physics engine, it has potential, and I like it for whatever reason. Maybe it's just me, but I'm not real happy with the graphics part of it. I think the graphics aren't, for whatever reason, in my eyes, I don't think they're as good as they were in Madden 12. I like a lot of things you could do in Madden 12. I liked the ability to use the wide receiver in, I don't know, that was just me, but, Madden 13, you still have that ability of some sort. It's not as overpowered, which in a way is an advantage, I think. It's a competitive advantage between both defense and offense. And but when Madden 12, I think is a little too overpowered. I have noticed a significant difference on defense. And that all comes down to All-Pro and All Madden, it seems like the defense is not, it's not near as effective as it's been on All Madden and other past Madden titles. I have a hard time playing defense in a fantasy league, and lots of broken tackles, lots of drop picks, it just doesn't seem very realistic to me. So, but the All-Pro seems way more realistic. If you make a pick, 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to catch it. I guess that's pretty much. There's not really any pros or cons. I feel like there are a couple more drop passes in Madden 13, no matter what level it's on. But overall, I like the game. It's just a new game, and everybody's got to adapt to it, and I've been able to adapt to it quite a bit,
So would you say, this is a two-part question. Do you fancy yourself a better offensive player or defensive player is part A, and part B is which one of the two do you think you're better at? And I know it sounds like I'm asking the same thing, but I can like to play defense better, but feel I'm an offensive player. So I guess basically, would you say Candyman is more defensive-oriented or offensive-oriented, and which one of the two do you enjoy playing more?
It's really, I guess if I had to choose, I would say defense. And I'm not really that good at defense. I guess the thing that I do enjoy about, picking the right plays, that kind of thing, I'm not always that good, it seems like. It seems like a lot of people rack up a lot of yardage against me. The only thing that I feel like that I'm good at, and that kind of separates me a little bit, is that I have pretty good user skills. And being able to use her doesn't mean just being able to run around and go catch a pick. There's two things that I do that enhances my probability of getting a turnover, and one of two things is baiting, and another one is, I guess you'd say baiting, and then the other one I guess would be anticipating. Anticipating where somebody's going to be open before they're open. I guess I've been pretty good at that. And then also baiting is, just kind of hanging out there, anticipating, but also staying far, keeping distance from where a potential receiver will be, and then closing in on that receiver before the ball's even thrown. And I've got several picks that way. And, of course, a hit stick, I'm pretty decent at that. But, defensively, I'm not that great. There's a couple little things in my scheme that I do that, works, some guys it doesn't work against. And, I would say 80% of the games that I win that are close are all about, being able to force turnovers. And I am currently in the league right now number one in turnover margin, which is, I think I'm like plus 40 or something crazy like that in turnover margin. It's almost ridiculous, but I guess that's probably the single key thing that I can think of, because I don't have big stats in anything, whether it's rushing or passing. It's just kind of mediocre. It's just solid. It's not really flashy or flamboyant or anything. It's just pretty, it's just solid, and that's the way I like to play. It's just
what?
Solid.
I'm glad that the conversation tilted this way. I've said this to any and everybody who asks me about your game. I think probably more than anybody in our league, I think me and you played the most between both leagues. It just always, ever since last year's Super Bowl, it just seems like we played each other at least 10 times in league. And whenever people ask me about you, I say exactly what you just said, and I tell them the same thing. Everyone wants the inside scoop when I say, here's the deal. Candyman is solid in all three phases of the ball. He's not flashy. He's not that guy that's going to have a top 5 receiver. He's not going to have a top 5 quarterback. He's not even maybe going to have a top 5 running back. The only area where you're going to see Candy on the stats is defense. He's always going to have a defender that high on picks, and it's normally a linebacker. But I tell people, that's just it. You can't take anything away from his game because he does everything equally well, even special teams. Every season I've been involved in the league with you, especially this year with having Devin Hester, you probably lead the league in special returns, touchdowns, punts, points, etc. You're always amongst the league leaders in picks. And on offense, you never do anything that's going to kill yourself. You're methodical. You're not a big, long vertical game, 60 yards on the field guy unless something's wide open. You're going to basically take your time going up the field, and you're methodical, and you don't make any mistakes. And I tell people, when you combine the fact that he won't make any mistakes, and he's going to get a hit stick or 2 fumble a game, he's going to get maybe 1 or 2 user picks a game, and maybe special teams play, you can't go into a game and basically give you 4 or 5 extra turnovers and win, which is evident, which is why in all of the years in leagues that we played in, I've never seen you lose more than 2 games combined. I think you may have 7 to 8 losses in 2 years combined. So that speaks to how you are. And I can vouch for that. Now, you played a lot of people in League 1 and League 2. Is there any one person that when you know you're going to play this person, you're like, shit, this guy always gives me a tough matchup, or he just matches up well with you, or he's just kind of a difficult matchup for you to deal with? In other words, everyone has a rival. I'll ask that then. Would you would you say that you have any rivalries in the league?
Now, could you ask that one more time?
Yeah, because I kind of jumbled two questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure I can answer this correctly.
No, exactly. It's my fault. Everybody in the league pretty much has that one person that they go, you know what? When you know you're going to play that person, you circle a calendar for whatever reason.
Oh, right.
Maybe you hate the guy. Maybe you want to pound him out. Maybe he's that guy that gives you a difficult matchup. Who would you say, A, you consider a rival in the league if you consider anybody, and B, the person that you feel like whenever you got to play that person, you just know it's going to be a crazy game, a war, whatever?
Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of ironic because, there's actually several guys, I mean, I seem to rarely, beat people really bad consistently. I really don't win a lot. I don't have a lot of blowouts. That's, I guess one for sure would be you, the Lions. And in the past, you and I have played each other probably more than anybody because you're in my division. We played that Super Bowl the first time. That's the first time we ever played. And we've always had pretty close games. And, you've been one. I played Mike several times. He and I have always had just super close games. Trying to think. Doc. He's always giving me a tough game. Having those Packers are they're just tough, and I seem to make a couple mistakes when I play him.
I know you and Gates of late, kind of recently, I'd say with last season, have kind of heated up.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny it's kind of reminiscent of whenever I played in Mad Men because I was kind of, smack talking when I first got in the league because, I knew I was solid. I knew I wasn't great, but, I thought I could make a run and, make some noise in my first season. So I talked a lot of smack in OSU and his brother, and, they didn't like me a whole lot because I was talking smack, and, that's okay. But, we're all cool now. But, Gates, he's talked a lot of smack. But, Gates is a good guy. I mean, he's been real cool to me. He's always called me and told me, good game, man. And he and I have always had really good games. We played 3 times, I believe. And that's counting the fantasy league. And actually, I think we played in the last year's on the League 2. We played in that first season one game, and then I think we played 2 or once each season in the first league. So he and I've always had close games. He's a good player. Got a lot of respect for him. Spud, he's turned his game up, and I played him. I think a couple times just practice when we in Madden 12, and I'd always beat him pretty good, and I didn't think a whole lot of his game. And then he beat me once in the second league the first season, and then I beat him this year. And he gave me a tough game. He's good. I think he's going to clinch the second seed in the NFC for the playoffs. I think that's his projected spot as of right now. And he's solid right now. And I'm going to brag on you a little bit. Is like I told you, I think yesterday that you really come on strong. And 2 times I played you this season were tough games. They're a lot closer. In fact, I believe you were leading at one point, or at least tied. And, it just seems like a couple turnovers at the end of the game always kind of sway to one side. I'm also going to brag on Chicago Tough. He's tough as nails, too. He and I played in that second league, first season Super Bowl. And, it come down to the wire. It come down to him having the last possession. He just threw a pass in the end zone. It was a little underthrown. I picked it off. It was game over, but it was tough as nails. I think he's struggling a little bit with the Vikings right now because he just doesn't have the personnel. And in order to be successful in these types of online leagues, you got to have personnel. I mean, somebody who's not, who they could be, awesome at Madden, but if you don't have, at least a couple playmakers on both sides of the ball, you're just not going to have, you're not going to do well. And I think that's where he's at because he's a good player, he's solid, got good gameplay. He just doesn't have the personnel right now. But, that's why we have each season, to draft, trade. And, I think he just acquired the quarterback, RG3. Yeah. So, he's got potential, but he just doesn't have any wide receivers. And, could use a better running back, some defensive guys, But, and I'm also brag on Koofy.
Yes.
He's really stepped his game up this season. And, he beat me. So he really played a good game, solid. He's got a good team. He's actually struggled towards the end. He's lost his last two. But, the AFC is a tough division. The NFC is as well. It's been tight the entire season. You have the NFC East. And, it come down to the Eagles and the Giants. And the Giants are going to clinch that division. And it come down to Spud and Gates, and Spud's going to clinch that division. So it's just it's been a tough season, and I could definitely see guys progressing and getting better and, being a much more threat to the defending champions. So, it's good to see, though. I enjoy it.
I would definitely agree, not to mention the role toward the end of the year that Blair's been on. I mean, Blair started out 0-7.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blair's just been killing it. You got guys like Jimmy who they're good, and they're kind of right on the fence the same way I've been this year, the way it's only a matter of time before they break through. But you bring up some good things. You're not known for blowing anybody out. You named all of these people, including myself, who give you these tough games. The biggest thing I've noticed from playing you that separates you, you could point to the turnovers, but I believe just mentally, on a mental toughness level, I honestly believe you're probably the mentally toughest guy in NBL. And that's no slight or disrespect to anybody else. But to consistently be able to win all of those close games and always have them go your way, I guess what I'm going to ask is, what do you think is it about you and your mindset with how you see the game that when the going gets tough, you don't fold? You look at a lot of guys, and I'll even say myself, I'm in a tough game with you, and it's 17-17 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I'm sweating. I'm nervous. My hand even shakes sometimes. I'm sitting there. I'm tight. I'm so tightly wound, it's not even funny. And you just never, ever, ever seem to lose your composure. What do you think is it about you that you're able to pull out all these close games mentally?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because there's something I've noticed with my play here recently that will not cut it when it comes to playoffs. And, what I try to do is like everybody else and like you, when you're in that close game and you're excited and you just don't want to blow it. You don't want to blow it. People will sometimes play conservative. Sometimes get more aggressive. People get more aggressive. It's one of those things where, like with my play here lately, I've been finding myself being somewhat one-dimensional in my offense and even on defense. And I've been having really close games where I've been getting beat. I got beat twice, back-to-back in the fantasy league. And but I found myself getting one-dimensional. So being one-dimensional, and especially on offense or defense, will beat you every time against somebody who's a good player. And I guess the way I've been approaching close games or any game for that matter and to have success. And I found most success is to mix it up constantly, but know what you're doing. Just don't pick random plays and just hope they work out. Just kind of know what you're doing. Have some method to your madness. That's the kind of the way I look at it. I've stuck with one playbook ever since Madden 13 came out. I stuck with one playbook. I know the playbook inside and out. Defense. I changed my defensive playbook midway through last season's. Midway through last season, and it worked out better for me. I just liked it. But offensively, keep the same playbook. I know exactly every play, and the key to it is for me myself is just play your game. And if the way you want to play or approach it doesn't work out, play your second game. And what I mean by that is have a second plan, have a different way to attack. There's some people who get one-dimensional in their play. They got 5, 6 plays max, and then if that doesn't work out, they're beat. And that's, you can't play that way. You have to have 2, maybe even 3 backup game plans, and that's what I try to implement. Sometimes I get frustrated, and I think Chicago Tough touched up on this last session, and you just can't lose your composure in that matter. You can't let the human element overtake a situation, and that's always doomed for failure whenever you let emotion get involved, or or frustration, it's never good. And so I try to just be cool. If I'm down, don't sweat it out. Don't keep digging a hole. Just say, if you're down 21 points, I know I was down one game, 21 points here lately, and I think I was in the fantasy league. The first game I was down 21 or 24 to nothing, and it was like early. I was like, just calm down, just play your game, score a touchdown, and then, and then go from there. And I did, score a touchdown, got a pick, scored another touchdown. I ended up winning that game 45, I think, to 27, and I just brought a new attack on that was within my playbook. It worked, and I did the same things over and over. I just completely, just ran different plays, and I got a couple big plays out of those different plays that I ran. So I just make sure I knew, and I read the defense. The guy in man or zone. That's really all you got to know is in man or zone, and be able to check down real fast. Check down. See what, have 3, know at least 3 guys are going to be doing. If that one guy's not open, check down. If he's not open, check down. And then, since I have Michael Vick, I have that opportunity to run the ball. Ever since Mike and I made that trade, that first trade of the season, when the game come out, I was like, perfect. I was like, he's going to be my bread and butter. He's going to be that guy that can, he can make plays with his feet, and when you have the read option, I think the read option to an extent is a little bit overpowered in Madden 13, but, if you got a running quarterback, I'll say it's overpowered, but in real life, it's torching defenses this year. It's added a new dynamic to the NFL, and I think it's great that it's been implemented in the game. So, I guess that's kind of the way I think about it. It's not just during the game, that I come up with this. I try to think about this before the game. I know Spud and several other guys, they give me a hard time about scouting reports, Well, here's the thing. If I haven't played somebody and, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking somebody, how's this guy going to play you? And if they want to answer, that's cool. If they don't, they don't. In real life, that's what coaches do. They review tape and all that. So I'm just being smart. I'm not trying to cheat. You can't cheat that way. I'm not in there hacking codes that are going to make guys drop falls or nothing like that. I just kind of get an idea of how they play. But whether or not somebody tells me, I can check out stats. You can check out how many receptions is this guy getting. Okay, well, he's a target guy. This guy's not as much, So, it's like with the Patriots, and with the Cardinals, Adrian Peterson, and Reggie Bush is going to get some touches.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the formula, I guess, I look at. I take a lot of things into consideration, and try not to get too excited when you're down or it's close. You just can't get excited, because if you do, you're going to make mistakes, and I hate making mistakes, especially in those situations. And, that's what makes the game fun. I mean, that's what adds the whole element to it that's just really exciting. You can't get that in a shooting game or nothing, it's just fun.
Agreed 100%. And you're right. Everybody teaches you about the scouting thing, but pretty much there isn't a coach in this league, especially at winning one, that doesn't scout in one way or another. Either they're scouting through the stats, or they're just flat out asking somebody about somebody else. And not only that, I could honestly probably say, to my knowledge, at least 60 to 70% of the league, which is more than half, has recording equipment. Now, whether guys actually post videos or not, I know guys are taping all of the games, especially if it's a divisional opponent and if somebody got to play several times. Why wouldn't you tape the game to look at routes that maybe killed you, routes that he throws to on third down? I mean, hey, it's technology. No one's giving out the recorders. Those recorders cost $200. So if somebody's willing to invest and put $200 of their hard-earned money into helping themselves get better, I have no problems with it. Like you said, in the NFL, in the college level, I mean, people review tape. They go through practices. I mean, it is what it is. Now, I want to go back to something you said earlier, because to me it's your biggest strength, and you said that. You felt it was your user on defense. And you said that you felt it wasn't just about running around, holding triangle and catching picks. It was about basically being able to bait people and anticipate where the ball's going to go. Now,
exactly.
the baiting, I think, is self-explanatory. What I would like to ask you is, what can you do? Because I've seen it firsthand. What advice could you give somebody that's trying to basically learn how to adjust on defense in terms of how they can anticipate where the ball's going to go? Because you do have an uncanny ability to do it. I've seen you do it against me. I've had other people like Gates and Shy Tough tell me firsthand. It was like you knew what they were going to do before they did it. And I've seen it firsthand. So what is it do you think that someone can do to practice that skill or acquire that skill? Because I don't even know how you can teach your anticipation.
Well, I think, and that doesn't normally happen at the beginning of a game, and especially if I haven't played somebody, For instance, I played Foie Gras in the Super Bowl, and I hadn't played him in Madden 13. I played him in Madden 12, but, that was irrelevant. I know he had a different game plan whenever I was going to play him. I didn't know nothing about him. I didn't get any scouting reports on him or nothing. I knew nothing about him. So, I didn't really know what I was going to be getting. But the way that I approach it is, it's very rare that I use a lineman. I never really use a lineman. I either use like a linebacker, and it could be outside or an inside linebacker, or I'll use a safety. And sometimes on special occasions when I know it's probably going to a specific receiver, I'll just grab a corner and I'll play man on that wide receiver. But, typically it's either a safety or it's a linebacker. And I think it was last year I had a lot of success with Urlacher, just scan the middle of the field. And got lots of picks. And, a lot of people in this year's game like to throw the tight end. And the tight end is a good route because, they can throw it inside or outside. And, it's tough to cover, especially, when you're trying to use her. But the way I guess I kind of go about it is I think everybody should be good at hot routing on defense. When I'm taking control of a guy And I just anticipate before the ball's even snapped, you know, as the game's kind of flowing through the first into the second quarter, you kind of get an idea of what somebody likes to do, whether they like to run, whether they like to pass with a certain one or two, you know, what's their two favorite targets. You know, like I said, some guys get very one-dimensional. They have 3 or 4 to even 5 plays that they like to run over and over, and you kind of can catch on, and you can hot route your guys in order to cover the target guys. And at that, you know, and that's where you can anticipate. You don't even have to hot route those guys. If I take control of that guy, what I'll do sometimes is I'll back off on that guy with just initially the snap and make it look like, you know, I'm close, but I'm not close enough to make a pick. But if I can see that there's a gap, the guy's open before the ball's even being pumped to throw, I can go ahead and make a decision and run to that guy. And I would say 80 to 90% of my user picks that are anticipated is by baiting. You know, you bait somebody into throwing a pick because it looks like they're going to be open. But, you know, if you can user somebody, and most of my guys are fast enough in order to quickly adjust and get in position. And, you know, when you press triangle, you know, they jump like madmen up in the air in order to pick it off. So it's almost unfair in a sense of them being able to get to the ball and the quarterback not being able to give enough touch on the ball in order to get over the defender. So I say baiting and anticipating go hand in hand in the way I like to, you know, force turnovers. And that's essentially what I do. You know, sometimes if I just know a guy's going to throw it to wide receiver, I'll just man on the guy the entire time, and sometimes people just try to force it, and it's an easy pick. So that's really the big thing. And I guess the hit stick is one that's been, I forced a lot of fumbles this year. My guys they're just big hitters. I mean, I feel like everybody in my secondary, where the 2 safeties are, all 3 of my linebackers, they're big hitters. They just cause fumbles. They just, you know, they just make big plays. And like I said, I give up a lot of yardage, but just being able to anticipate and to bait guys, and you just get that feel for it. So that's all the advice I could give.
I can say this, going back to something you said about it's almost unfair. There was one play, and I think it happened, it was this year, the first game we played. I think it was the first game of the season. I still haven't gotten over it to this day. It was a play that I went 5 wide on you, and I had Chris Johnson on a wheel route. And I passed led inside, and you was beat to the inside by 5 steps. Some kind of way, even though I had the inside position and I had a premier quarterback and Stafford throwing it inside, the guy was able to make up the 5 yards, undercut the ball, and pick me up. That to this day, it still aggravates the piss out of me when I think about it, because there's just no way on God's green earth that pick should have happened.
Yeah, you know, and I agree. And ironically enough, I totally remember that exact play. I remember you making a comment about it, and I was even like, wow, you know, I picked that off. And, you know, there's a lot of times on that game, I don't even want to talk about all Madden. I'm just not a fan of it. You just drop too many picks that you should get. But on All Pro, you know, I mean, there's a lot of pictures like, wow, you know, that's why there's so many turnovers, because it's so easy to force a turnover, or to turn the ball over on offense. It's just so easy to do it when you're passing, especially against man, and you don't have any man beaters, you know, and your guys are covered. You try to force it, it's just going to get picked. But yeah, I totally agree. You know, you don't even have to be in. I feel like in Madden 12, you had to have a lot better. You had to be in better position on the wide receiver in order to make a good pick. You know, you had to be a lot closer. You just had to be in a better position. But this year, it seems like you can just jump like 6 feet in the air and just grab whatever you want at any time. It's almost ridiculous. So,
you know,
I guess, go ahead.
You know, so real quick, not to cut you off, there's another interception that you're the master at that really aggravates me. And it's nothing to you, because a lot of people have done this to me. It's a flaw with the game I have. It's that play where you put Urlacher or Shea McClellan in a yellow or a spy in the middle of the field. Now, I roll with the Lions and I have Stafford. And Stafford's in the high 90s with everything when it comes to throw. Throw power, short, medium, deep, tight spiral, clutch package, you name it. Okay, so he's a top-notch quarterback. And I'll have a guy open on the post 15 yards past your linebacker. So I throw it deep, and you get that stupid Superman animation and jump in there and get it. And I'll tell you why that play aggravates me like no other. In the real NFL, if I'm throwing with a guy like Stafford as hyped up as I made him, 15 yards past your linebacker, and he has touch on the ball would be at least 10 feet over that linebacker's head. But Shy Tuff told me something that I agree with, and I think it has to do with the coding in the game. If your guy's in the line of trajectory of that pass, it triggers him automatically to get that pick, even though physics-wise in real life, that ball should be 10 feet over his head. Now, I just brought that up because it's funny. And last season with Urlacher, I think he had like 14 picks that way. And this year with McClellan, a lot of people haven't given him his credit. He's been just as beastly. But that one play always just aggravates me because it's like that ball should be 10 feet over that guy's head.
Exactly.
At 240, the guy should be able to jump 3 feet. I get that. Not 10 to get that ball. But it always happens. And I still always throw it like a dummy anyway because I'm like, that should get there. No user pick off. Damn it, man.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. You know, the only thing, and I don't do this often, I think I've played around with it. I don't think it matters. I'm not sure. I haven't mastered anything. And I mean, I haven't mastered the game of Madden by no means. But I feel like where people get in trouble by throwing those types of passes and they get picked, and you're like, wow, why didn't you throw it over him? You know, a lot of times it's just the quarterback pressing buttons, or it's the guy pressing buttons. You know, it's just holding the button for a. I think you got to press up on the stick in order to
basically.
Does it? I mean, I think it lobs it just a little bit high. I'm not sure. I haven't really played with it much, and it's something that I should be playing with, at least figuring out. But I thought that does lob it a little bit over. It makes it a little higher, but I could be wrong. I haven't done it a whole lot to be like, well, yeah, that works, and you don't have to worry about throwing those terrible interceptions, you know. But it's something to play around with. I really don't know if it makes sense logically the way I'm thinking about it, but you know, regardless, it's ridiculous. I've had a lot of picks where I'm just like, I just can't believe I picked that off. You know, I've thrown picks where I'm just like, wow, that sucks. You know, it's just frustrating. But that's the thing is, I really work, or I try hard not to make those stupid passes, or those passes that, you know, and I'll say this, and this is something that I do not see a lot of guys doing hardly ever. And that is taking control of the wide receiver before the ball's even thrown. And do you know what I'm talking about with that?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I think you press R2 and L2, and the left stick, you can move up, down, left, or right. And that makes the closest receiver that's to the quarterback, you can manually make him go where you want.
You're basically talking about playmaker and a receiver, and you're 100% right. And it's definitely a tactic I use constantly, especially if somebody plays max coverage. Perfect example. I just played Jimmy 2 nights ago, and he basically played coverage D the whole game. And in that scenario, you're never going to win. I don't care that I have Calvin Johnson, Hakeem Nicks, and Deshaun Jackson. 3 against 10 is never a good idea. So you're right. In that scenario, you're 100% right. I hit L2, then I hit R2, it triggers and lights up a red circle on that receiver. And then if you take the right analog stick, whatever direction you move that in, the receiver goes in that direction. And it's one of the biggest ways to beat coverage D out there.
Exactly.
So you're right. A lot of people don't do it, but it's definitely a very, very vital tool in the game, especially this year with the amount of coverage D everyone plays. You pretty much know for a fact when you get into the red zone, you're getting coverage D. And even not in the red zone, I mean, just a lot of people, because Heat is so inconsistent this year, they're just more comfortable dropping 10 guys back. And if you want to be successful, you got to learn how to beat that and how to beat two-man under. I don't care what two-man under it is, but Doc's a perfect example. Doc's another guy like you that's pretty solid. Doc's going to sit in nickel two-man under the entire game. He's not even really going to blitz you. He's just going to challenge you to beat that two-man under. And believe it or not, you'd be surprised how often two-man under frustrates people and trips them up.
Right. That's why there's man beaters. I can tell that there's several guys in the league that have learned the man beaters. I know one is definitely Spud. He knows how to beat man. C-Tough, he knows how to beat man. I like man, but I have gotten to where I used to be real heavy-sided man because people didn't really know how to beat it, and I was just, it's just tough. It's a tough coverage if you don't know how to beat it. I know how to beat it, and lots of other guys are knowing how to beat it. So I've had to adapt in the second season, and mix in the zone, mix it in, and you got to blitz. I see too many people that don't even blitz, and but make your blitzes effective and efficient. You don't want them to, just get blocked. You don't want to, have three down linemen and blitz an outside linebacker. And, I know a lot of guys do different things in order to get guys free. But, there's simple adjustments you can make there by just, shifting your offensive line. And, there's that's one thing people got to learn to do is shift lines when people are getting guys free constantly. That's frustrating, but that takes care of that sort of thing. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but you just gotta make adjustments, and you just gotta know what how to combat certain things. That's why I said you've got to be able to know hot routes on defense. There's a lot of times I'll come out in man, and before the ball's even snapped, half of the guys that were in man coverage are in zone, and some are in man. So it's very confusing. It could be. But you got to be quick. You got to know, I want this guy to do this, I want this guy to do that. And, and I try to mix it up both ways. So you just got to mix it up. You got to bring pressure at some point, because if people just sit back all day, that's when you can use the playmaker tool, and you're eventually going to be able to get somebody wide open, get for a big gain, and, it kills you. So you've got to mix it up. That's the biggest advice that I could give.
Just real quick, since you've seen all the different looks against you, what person would you say that when you play them has the most insane heat? And I say that because I know for a fact that people probably play you one or two ways. They're probably scared and drop everybody back and just try to cover everything that way, or people sitting house at you. So I know you've had to see it all, and everybody's quest to always take you down. Who would you say has the most insane heat that you face?
Well, C-Tough gives a lot of heat. He blitzes a lot. Noli, before he resigned, he was by far the most. He was a blitzkrieger. I mean, that's all he did. He just blitz. But he had strategic blitzes, and he always kept you on your toes. Madden 13, it's the blitzing's a little, it's not as effective in my mind, or the way I look at it, as it was in Madden 12. But yeah, I say probably C-Tough right now. He's probably the most consistent blitzer. But when somebody's blitzing heavily, You can always resort to the screen. You can always resort to short little halfback passes. There's always somebody's going to be open, and you just got to adjust. And sometimes a lot of people will blitz, and then they'll come out like they're blitzing, but they're all in a thick cloud zone, and you got to be able to. Then it becomes a mind game or a chess match, and then you just go, well, I can run here, or it's fun when it becomes a chess match because some people will treat it that way, and some people are either all out blitzing or they're just all back in coverage. I mean, it's either one extreme or the other. But I think you got to mix it up and have different angle blitzes from either outside corners sometimes. You got to mix it up. That's the way I've been getting contested way too much on defense here lately. I've had to change it up, and I played C-Tough really well. And my whole game was just changed up the entire game. I knew what I was doing on offense. I was completely, using. I don't think I've used the same play more than twice when I played him. So
fantastic.
Just keep it changed up, man. That's the key to it. And know your playbook.
That, and I always tell people, and then we'll get on the next topic. I always tell people, if you want to be Candy, it takes a certain kind of player, and it's a Reggie or a Jimmy or a Philly type. And people ask me, what do you mean by that? You've got to be one of those run-first guys because, at least from my observation, it's extremely tough to pass on you. First of all, I tell people, if you're going to pass on Candy, don't throw it into the middle of the field. Take your chances on the outside. Fades, outs, curls. I'm not saying that's guaranteed, but you ain't thrown into the middle of the field. So I always say it's got to be somebody like a Philly that is going to run 25 to 30 times a game. It doesn't matter if you stop him for negative yardage, 1 yard. He's just going to keep running it to get you to come out of that D, and then you've got a legitimate chance. But if you're a pass-heavy guy like myself, like Shot Tough, it's going to be a tougher road for you because we're playing into the strength of your defense. So, on a side note, I always tell people, if you're going to beat Candy, you've got to – I won't even say be balanced. I almost think you've got to be run-heavy with occasional pass mixed in. Because if you let Candy set up shop with the way he can adjust, hot route user, that's a tough road to hoe right there.
Well, I play my buddy Daddy-O, so it seems like everybody just seems to beat his socks off every time he plays, or, he plays someone. And every time I play, to me, it's very frustrating because, Daddy-O's, he's played Madden for years. He actually is the one that really got me into playing because he's like, nah, man, he said NCAA sucks, you need to get into Madden. And I was like, yeah, and eventually I fell into really enjoying playing Madden. But he said that, or the way I play him is, he's one of those guys that it's like you would think he played game flow side, he played the game flows, but he doesn't, but you would think he did because he's totally changed it up completely. And he's always frustrated me every single time that I've played him. But, I think that's the type of person that really gets to me is when somebody's constantly changing it up and always bringing something different because it's frustrating. I think that's for anybody.
You can't settle into a groove because, perfect example, I remember last year, and we used to laugh about this last year. Whenever me and you played, you'd get out. It always seemed at least a 21-point lead on me, and it looked like it was going to be a laugher. And then all of a sudden, the second half would come, and I'd go on one of the monster tears, and the game would come down to a wire, and it would be because all of a sudden, in the second half, I'd go to the tight flex and run snug the whole rest of the way with a zillion different hot routes and patterns. And I would always be pissed at the end of the games because I'm like, damn it, if I could have did that a little earlier. Well, then the next game we play, I start out with that, and you're like, Tom won that, brother.
Yeah, well, it's one of those, there's guys who I play, I think, Gates, it seems like every time I play him, he's like, man, he always lets me know, he's like, I got a new playbook, if you taped the game last time, it's not going to do any good because I'm doing this now. You don't know what I'm bringing. He always lets me know. And, which is great, I think that's cool.
But then he always throws the same out routes. See, you know something I've noticed, though? No matter how many times people change playbooks, here's something I've noticed. It doesn't matter. I've played people who change playbooks all the time, but their tendencies remain the same.
Exactly.
They have the same tendencies from book to book. So you might have a new play or two that you're throwing at me. Gates is a perfect example. I don't care what book he uses, that guy's throwing out routes. And if you don't commit or stop or take him away, he's going to throw out routes and curl flat combos from quarter 1 to quarter 4. So it doesn't matter if he's in Green Bay, Wichita, Topeka. It doesn't matter what book he's in. He's going to do the same thing. So to me, I never get too much caught up in the, hey, I got a new playbook thing, because I notice that people's tendencies are people's tendencies. Reggie's a run-first guy. So it doesn't matter if he's in Houston, Atlanta, Philly, New England, he's going to pound the ball down your throat. That's what he does.
Right.
Now,
Well,
I do have a controversial...
I want to bring something up real quick, if I can interrupt just one thing.
Sure.
You bring that up, and I think I've talked about several things strategically on defense that I do. But for anybody who's good at offense, there's one thing that I've been trying to do, I've been doing, is window dressing. And for anyone who doesn't know what window dressing is, it's basically running similar or the same plays out of different formations.
Yes, sir.
And, that's one thing that I know my playbook. I know I have about 4 or 5 just, favorite formations, but I can run essentially the same plays out of every single formation, or, something very similar to it. And most of the time, no matter what the formation or the play I choose, I'm always hot routing. I'm always doing something that I want to do a little different, unless it's some kind of scribble route where, it's a man beater. And, but I think that's something important for somebody who, doesn't want to get one-dimensional on offense, is to window dress their play calling. And I think that's just an important aspect to the game. If you want to be good and consistent, just, cover your plays, Don't let somebody think that you're going to be doing the same thing over and over or something similar. Come out where you're always, on their heels. That's exactly where you want, the opponent to be every single time. So I just wanted to get that in there.
Well, I do agree with that 100% because it's something I like to do. If you hit it right on the head, perfect example, I might run something out of single back bunch, but then come out in shotgun bunch and run the same thing. Well, it throws people the fact that I'm actually running out of gun as opposed to single back. So it's definitely a good point. Now, I did want to ask you a somewhat controversial question. Don't want to put you on the spot, but I figure while we got you here and you're a straight shooter, it'd be good to ask you this. Okay. Now, I want to get back to you and Daddy-O's. And first of all, as far as Daddy-O's is concerned, I do want to say that he's one of the most confusing guys to me in Madden. Because every time I play the guy, I feel like I got to fight him tooth and nail to keep him down and put him down. But then I always look at this guy's record and I'm like, I don't get it. Because the guy plays me. As a matter of fact, we just played about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I couldn't move the ball on the guy until the second half. I wound up winning the game, and I wound up winning by, let's say, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns. But It wasn't as easy as it looked. And I'm like, I don't get why the guy's record's not what it is. That was the point I wanted to make. Now, the question is, I've had quite a few people, after playing Daddy-O's, mention in the chat, or shoot me an email, or Philly, and I'm not going to make the names, and says, hey, I don't think that, as good as Daddy-O's played me, I know that's Candy's brother. They live down the street. I feel like Candy was playing for this guy. Now, do you want to address that while I got you in there? Because I have the man himself here, you. And I've heard this from a few different people that they felt after playing Daddy-O's that, hey, that was really Candy playing. Now, I don't agree with that or know that to be true. So I'm asking you that question.
Oh, well, that's absolutely 100%. That's not true. People can say I'm lying. I mean, I can't really, I guess I can't convince anybody, but that's really not me playing. That's buddy Scotty, who's been a good friend of mine for a long time. Like I said, he's the one that actually got me into Madden, and never been, I got him into, getting into this league play, and he's not active, I mean, I guess somebody would say, well, of course he's not active if it's you. And he's not active just because he doesn't have a computer, for one. He's got an iPad, but he doesn't, he uses it for work. He's solid. He's played that, like I said, all of his life, it seems like. He's the one that actually got me into it, which I always try to get him into NCAA when I was playing that, but, he never liked it, so he just always played Madden. So he's the one that kind of got me into Madden. And he and I always played close games. He was good, but he never had the big user skill. But he always just had this crazy game plan where it was just like a random game plan every single time we played, and it always kept me on my heels. And we just played each other the other night, and it was kind of weird because for whatever reason we couldn't play our game. He had given Spud his information in order to sign in, and something about his account was being used by somebody else. I know Spud didn't have nothing to do with that, but we finally, we changed his password. We got it figured out, and that was that, and it worked, and we played our game. It was frustrating. I was up 14-0, and he ended up scoring a touchdown towards the end, but he always plays me tough, and it was fun to play. It was fun to play him. But to answer your question, and anybody who's skeptical about me being him, it's totally false. I don't have any motive. It's not. I don't use it. I don't use it to scout people. That wouldn't be my. That's not my motive because I don't care. I don't care enough to have two accounts and to act like I suck in order to, gain some kind of competitive advantage. That's not me. And, I don't know how to prove that.
Well, let me clarify something. I don't think that the people that have mentioned this before, I don't think that they think that you're Daddy O's. They think that because
I just get on his account and play people?
From time to time, you'll go over to his house or something and play his game.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. I actually do have his account on my PlayStation. The reason being is, well, he actually lives in Michigan. He lived in Florida. He flipped to Michigan for work. He's actually moving back to or a town beside mine when he moves back in April. But he flew in to see his two boys, and he played his first game of the season against Koofy. And he didn't bring his PlayStation, so he just came over to my house and, logged in with his account and all that, and play his game. So, I mean, if I wanted to play as him, I could, but we don't do that. He enjoys playing the game too much, and I have more integrity than to get on his account and play his games for him. So
I'm pretty sure if you did, he wouldn't be 3-12.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just, I know he even got, he communicates to everybody. So I think I asked him, I said, when are you going to play Terrific? And he said, well, I can play him tonight. And then I sent you a text and that kind of thing. And he just, he's kind of, he likes playing the game. He's not really into it as much as we are because, he doesn't really study it a whole lot. He just plays the game. He enjoys it. But, he didn't really care enough to really be adamant about playing who he's going to play because he didn't really have a whole lot to play for, I guess, in the season. And he's been frustrated. But, he does enjoy to play the game. He plays his games. And, you got to give him credit for that. So.
Well, I sure do. And like I said, wasn't trying to ambush you with a cheap question. I just try to be, unlike you, I'm highly ethical. So basically it's something that has been brought up a few different times. So I figure, you know what? I know Candy will have no problem answering the question, so I threw that out there. Now, I know for a fact that you told me you had 30 minutes. I think we ran a little longer. I did kind of have one last segment we can run through quick if you're up for it. If not, I'll do it by myself. And what it was I broke down the playoffs, the seeding and everything, even factoring in games that's not played by predicting or forecasting what I think's going to win. And I wouldn't mind going through that with you. Again, if you're pressed for time, I can do it by myself. If you're good for one more segment, we'll run through it together and wrap this up.
Well, I tell you what, Ty, this is how I can do it, man, because I do need to get off here. But let me quickly run down what I think about the playoffs real quick, and then I'll just hang up and I'll listen to the rest of the show whenever you post it.
That'll work.
Perfect.
What was yours, sir?
Quickly, the way it looks, this is just by looking at it, I think, obviously the Bears are number 1 seed in the NFC. The Bucks are number 2 seed. They get the first round bye. They beat the Panthers for the NFC South crown. The 49ers, they are now going to win the NFC West. But the Cardinals, they had a 10-game win streak going. They lost to the Cowboys 31-28. And, they had such a great season with Adrian Peterson. Nonetheless, the Cardinals will get the 6th seed, the way I'm projecting it, in the NFC. And the Panthers, they took care of business in order to earn a wild card spot, and they should get the 5th seed. The Giants beat the Eagles for the NFC East title. They are a hot team. Had a close game with the Patriots not too long ago. Jay Garrettson he's done a good job, and so is OSU. He made the playoffs this year. He's running crazy with Adrian Peterson. He's got over 2,000 yards. So he's mimicking almost what Adrian did this year in real life.
Yeah.
In the AFC, you've got the Patriots, who are just arguably the top team in the league. Reggie Bush is insane. I think he's over 1,700 yards rushing. The Ravens, here's a guy who I think had 2 games simmed at the beginning of the season, lost both, or not simmed, but played by, put on autopilot. He's won 14 games straight. He beat the Patriots. He's probably the hottest team. And I think he'll wrap up the AFC North. And you'll have the Broncos, who's in the West. They clinched the 3rd seed. They had a strong season, but they ended on a skid with the Chargers getting blanked 24-0 against the Titans. This week it was kind of a shocker. I think Cookie's got a solid roster. I think he's got one of the best rosters in the league, and he could do some damage in the playoffs. The playoffs is when that's when it counts. The Jaguars, they'll win the AFC South. They had a solid season. They almost beat the Patriots 42-43, and almost beat the Ravens, who lost by 6 points to the Ravens. It looks like, since the Chargers lost, the way I'm looking at it, I think the Browns will round it out and get the 5th seed, and the Dolphins will get the 6th seed. I think that may be determined by the game that they're yet to play. I think they're going to play tonight. I don't know how that'll change the seeds, but nonetheless, both teams will get a wild card spot. So that's the way I'm looking at the wild card week picture. It should be the 49ers against the Cardinals. First game of the wild card. It should be the Giants and the Panthers.
We have the exact same thing, man. Not to cut you off, the exact same thing. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. Like I said, it should be the 49ers and the Cardinals. I think both guys play each other twice. I think they're 1-1 against each other. And, Coach Smith, he's solid. He's had some solid wins. He's had some, not so good losses. The Cardinals have been strong. They are going to be tough. I'm looking forward to seeing how that first week goes. It's fun to be on the outside looking in when you've got a first round bye, and you can kind of see everybody play the wild card games. It's kind of interesting to see how that works out. But I think the Cardinals have the edge in that game. You got the Giants and the Panthers. I'm not sure if they've played this season. The Giants, Jake Garrett, he's got over 40 touchdown passes with Manning. I mean, he's a passing machine. The Panthers, you've got Cam Newton, you got Arian Foster. I think that'll be a close game. I think Gates is due. I think he could win that game. You look at the AFC. The way I've got it looking like, it would look like it would be the Broncos against the Dolphins.
I have the exact same thing.
Okay, and then you got the Browns playing the Jaguars. Is that what you got?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Number 4 Cleveland and 5 Jacksonville.
Yeah, and UGA dog. I mean, he's solid. He's got a good game plan. He's almost beat the 2 top guys in the AFC. He's got some good personnel. I think his running back's hurt. I don't know. He's more of a passer, but Darkness. He's actually put a really good season together. And I'm really unfamiliar with Darkness and his play, but I know he's been solid. I think he's 11-4 or 12-4.
Trent Richardson, I think, is 5th in the league at rushing at 1,300 yards, which is pretty much. I'm like you. I don't know a ton about Darkness, but just off that alone, I've got to assume that he's a run-first guy that's looking to control the game and clock with Richardson.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's just got a good running game. I think he plays pretty solid defense. The Dolphins, Buffalo Sam, is that his name?
The Dolphins is Buffalo Sam.
Yeah, he's put a good season together. I think between the Dolphins and the Broncos, the Broncos have struggled here lately. I think, that's a close game. Hard to make a call on that one. I would think that possibly, I think that Kofi could win that game. He's just got a good roster. I mean, he's got good secondary. He's got good wide receivers, solid quarterback. I think he'll win his first playoff game. And then I think the Browns and the Jaguars, I really think UGA will win that game. And I guess if he won that game, he would play the Ravens. It depends. But yeah, I think UGA would probably win that game. So I'm looking for the Jaguars and the Broncos to advance to the division. So that's my quick rundown of the playoffs. I've got to go. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the season wraps up and looking forward to the draft and season number 3. So with that said, again, thanks. I'll holler at you, and I'm looking forward to listening to the show.
No problem, man. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time, sir. That was Candyman 2010, folks. And with that said, I'm going to basically run through my predictions really quick. Basically, they mirror Candy's. In the NFC East, and I've taken into account what I think is going to happen for the games that haven't been played in Week 17. Number 1 seed, Chicago Bears in the NFC at 14-2. The 2nd seed in the NFC I have as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a 12-4 record, because I'm going to go ahead and say that they are going to beat their opponent in Week 17. I forget who their opponent is off the top of my head, but I do have them beating that opponent. The 3rd seed I have in the NFC is the Carolina Panthers at 11-5, because I have the Panthers beating New Orleans in Week 17. The 4th seed I have is the San Francisco 49ers at 11-5. The 5th seed I have as the Arizona Cardinals at 10-6. And the 6th seed I have as the New York Giants, winners of the NFC East at 9-6. The way I see this in the playoffs, obviously the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers both get a bye in week 1. So I have the wild card games weekend being number 3 Carolina Panthers, number 6 New York Giants. I've never played Jake Root in any league. I know he's got a nice passing attack, just looking at Eli Manning's touchdowns, looking at Victor Cruz, Nate Burleson's receptions. He spreads the ball around pretty good. Seems to be a pass-first guy, pretty solid on defense. Carolina Panthers, again, Cam Newton, Arian Foster. I played Gates a few times. Not really going to blitz you on defense. Going to play a ton of zone. Makes really good adjustments and likes to take away your main leads. That's going to be a tough game. On offense, Gates is not flashy or spectacular. He's going to stick to the basic fundamentals and concepts. Simple pass concepts, outs, flats, curl, flat combos. He's going to mix in some runs. He's not going to do anything crazy on offense. I think that is going to be a really close game. It could almost be a pick'em, but if I had a gun to my head, I'd have to give number 3 Carolina the edge in a very close game over the number 6 Giants. The second playoff game in the NFC I have as the number 4 49ers at the number 5 Cardinals, and that's going to be a war. They're both familiar with each other's games. They both play in the same division. This will be their 3rd time meeting. I believe they are 1-1. You know what OSU is going to do. Adrian Peterson, only running back in the league to rush for over 2,000 yards, so it's going to stop and start with him. I don't know a lot about Mr. Smith, but I know Mr. Smith is run-oriented first. Look for a low-scoring game there. Both of them play solid D. Look for the team that can do the most on the ground to win. I give the edge to OSU in a close game. So that would mean that the number 3 Panthers will move on to play Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the second round, and the Cardinals will move on to play the Bears in the second round. In the second round, I have Spud and Gates meeting for the 3rd time. I think they're 1-1. That's going to be a tough game. I'm going to give the slight edge in that game to Carolina over Tampa Bay, just due to Gates' familiarity with Spud. Spud makes a living out of that full house formation. I think Gates is pretty comfortable in stopping that. It's going to be interesting to see if Spud can come up with another formation to throw at Gates to keep him off his game. If he sticks to that full house formation for his offense for most of the game, I think he loses. In the second game, OSU against Chicago. OSU's tough, 1-10 in a row. Again, AP and company. I think that that's going to be a close game, but I see the defending champion Bears winning that game. So the NFC Championship then comes down to the number 4 Carolina Panthers at the number 1 Chicago Bears, and I see the Chicago Bears beating Carolina, although Gates will make it a tough competitive game. He'll come up just short again, and a heartbreaking loss. I see the Chicago Bears winning the NFC Conference. In the AFC, the number 1 seed is the New England Patriots, 15-1. The number 2 seed, the Baltimore Ravens, 14-2. The number 3 seed, the Denver Broncos, at 13-3, because I see them winning their game against Cincinnati, Week 17. The number 4 seed will be the Cleveland Browns, although I see them losing the Browns to Miami in Week 17. They will still secure the number 4 seed. The number 5 seed here will be the Jacksonville Jaguars at 11-5. I see them winning their Week 17 game over Atlanta. And the number 6 seed will be the Miami Dolphins at 11-5, who I think will beat Cleveland in Week 17. So that sets up in the AFC a first-round bye for New Orleans and Baltimore. And the 2 wildcard playoff games in the AFC will be the number 3 Broncos at the number 6 Dolphins. Buffalo Sam is one of the hottest players in the league right now. He is playing tough, but I feel that a lot of people are not giving Kofi 100% credit. Yeah, he's lost his last 2. I also know for a fact that he's also decided to sit most of his players the last 2 games to rest them up for injury. So with that being said, with him returning his All-Stars back to the fold, even though I think Miami has had a really good season, I think the talent alone on Denver is just going to be too much, and I give the Broncos that win. Denver and Kofi win their first playoff game. In the second playoff game, I see number 4 Cleveland and number 5 Jacksonville. I think Darkness has had a surprise season. It's been a great season, but I think Trent Richardson hits a wall this game. I think that UGA runs pretty high-powered offense. I think he's going to force Cleveland to play a quicker tempo game. I see UGA also being able to contain Richardson, so I see the Jags winning. Which sets up the divisional conference round, New England versus Jacksonville. As good a season as UGA has had, New England's on the mission this year. I can't see them beating New England, so I see New England taking that game. In the second playoff game, Baltimore-Denver, Kofi's had a great season. I think the Cinderella shoe comes off. I think that Baltimore's defense is just too good. I think that the way the Denver Broncos like to play football is they like to drop back 6 or 7 feet, 6 or 7 yards, cross up a long user and go up and get it. And that will not work against Baltimore. You won't have time to get to that 7-step drop. You get sacked within your 3rd step. A leper can't change his spots. Kofi's a pass-first guy that plays in the Baltimore's hand. They win that game, which sets up the AFC Championship of New England versus Baltimore. I think Baltimore may have beat New England for their only loss this season. I see New England getting their revenge. Both for sure is as solid a player as we have in this entire league. Again, I think New England's on a mission. I think Reggie Bush is focused. I think the combination of New England's offense and defense, it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I think New England pulls that out, which then sets up a New England versus Chicago Super Bowl. Normally, under no circumstances, and this is a surprise, you never go against the champ. To beat a champ, you got to beat the champ. As good as Candyman is, he was just our guest. We had him on the show. The guy's adjustments are phenomenal. I think this is New England's year. I think in the shock of the season, and not a shock is in New England's a scrub, but a shock is in Chicago is the back-to-back champs. I think New England gets them. I think we have a new champion this year, and I think New England wins it all in a very close game. Those were my player predictions. The guest on our show today was Candy. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of CoachTy's Corner, where we have NBL League 2 Commissioner Mark Gates on next week. Thanks to my engineer Reggie. We are out.